But this is as well-crafted a first 4 paragraphs as you will find anywhere. Pete Thamel, the author, has been employed at a bunch of places. He's at ESPN. There's a consistent myopia that's led college athletics down a wayward path for generations. It's a familiar pattern that spiraled the industry to its current state. Leaders wait until problems manifest and then scramble for 11th-hour solutions. They muster enough administrative muscle to spit out some type of temporary bubblegum resolution to stick in the dam. Then they exhale when a flood is avoided, look away, and don't notice the water gushing elsewhere. The cycle repeats itself over and over. So here we are with the latest self-manufactured college athletics emergency, name, image, and likeness enforcement, or lack of enforcement, which came after NIL's shotgun introduction less than a year ago. Sound familiar? Administrators gathered last week at a series of meetings built around a Scottsdale boondoggle made famous by a Fiesta Bowl executive turned felon, and tripped over themselves to voice the most outrage at a problem their own apathy created. Well done, Pete Thamel.
Nailed it.
I would encourage you, if you have not read the article, to read it. This is where he really gets into the important stuff. He references Justice Brett Kavanaugh's concurring opinion to the Supreme Court's ruling in the Austin case, when Justice Kavanaugh said the NCAA is not above the law. The NCAA couches its arguments for not paying student athletes in innocuous labels, but the labels cannot disguise the reality. The NCAA's business model would be flatly illegal in almost any other industry in America. And Thamel writes that that ruling also gave a vision for what college sports can look like in the future. He points out the story that we talked about a month or two back, where we looked at the revenue projections for the Power 5 leagues. And by the mid-2020s, and by the way, we're in 2022, closing in on halfway through it, the SEC and the Big Ten are going to be distributing to each member in the neighborhood of $100 million a year, with the ACC, Pac-12, and Big 12 about half of that number. And he says that projections can be a little shaky, but even the most conservative estimates show a $30 million gap, which is simply not sustainable for those other leagues. So this is what really grabbed me. The presidents have to bury all the amateurism propaganda they've sprouted for decades and realize their days of talent for scholarship deals in college football and basketball have ended. Revenue sports are going to cost them more to run. They need to figure out a model to attract the best talent. The revenue streams are there. So an article like this can be great, but if all it does is lay out the problems without offering any solutions, then it's just another sports writer yelling at the clouds. So how about some of this, where he suggests that what if conferences pay an NIL fee to every scholarship athlete? A de facto salary, and then the kids can get NIL deals on top of that. What if the SEC and the Big Ten say it's a billion-dollar industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry. We've got all of this money coming in. And by the way, I'm not saying that this doesn't create financial problems for some schools that even are in the SEC and the Big Ten. It may have to change priorities. I mean, the days of building waterfalls and slides and putt-putt golf courses in your football facilities may go away. Hope you've already built them in the name of that revenue is actually going to players. Thought that was a fascinating concept to say, well, what if a conference bought the NIL rights to every player that comes into that league? and then use them to market their schools and their leagues. That's fascinating.
It is. And presumably you could create the model to where it doesn't officially designate them as employees, because when you do that, the entire model blows up. And Greg Sankey has mentioned many times, and I believe him, he doesn't want, like the track and field championship that just happened this weekend in the SEC, he wants that to continue. If you designate them as official employees, that goes away. Those are gone. Track and field are gone. Tennis is gone. Golf is gone. Gone. If you make them employees with a true revenue share like the NFL. Can't do that. So you've got to find a creative way to calm things down, level the playing field as best you can while embracing what is currently going on. This whole thing was fascinating, and I think he's right, and you were right when you said this morning, we're looking at the wrong. Everybody's whining and complaining about NIL, and oh my gosh, can you believe Tennessee paid this quarterback? This is preposterous. We're all looking at the wrong thing. But let me ask you something. Who would you trust more to create a college football that feels more balanced? This is going to sound crazy. The NCAA? Or Greg Sankey and the commissioner of the Big Ten? Who do you think gives Ole Miss and Mississippi State the best chance to be competitive? The NCAA or Greg Sankey and the Big Ten?
Well, of course the answer is Greg Sankey. Pete Thamel says that the president of the NCAA has less power than a Sheboygan Brownie troop leader. Shout out to Sheboygan. Polka, polka, polka. Shout out Home Alone.
Yeah. People hate change so much, and I understand. I don't particularly like it either. But there's a chance that the change that is inevitably coming actually benefits us around here. Because you're in it by association now. They're not kicking you out.
Yeah. I mean, I think Ole Miss and Mississippi State are safe where they are. But I do think you got to look real hard at revenue models, because Ole Miss and Mississippi State don't generate the same revenue that Georgia and Alabama and Tennessee and Florida.